You guys are all there?
Yep.
All right, so we're just gonna take a look at this kitchen. It's roughly what we were looking to create. I think I have a vanity base cabinet in here for rather than a sink unit. So I'm just gonna switch this over really quick. It's not gonna be a proper sink unit, but you'll get the idea. So we'll just stick one of those in there. That's the right height. Okay. So basically, I have a U-shaped countertop that I need to build. It's going to go like from the left side of the refrigerator all the way around. We want to skip where the sink is going to be. All right. Or at least maybe we should put our sink in first. That's probably best practice. So if we just put a sink unit in there, choose your sink unit, put your sink unit in place. All right, get that like lined up inside of your cabinet where it's going to go first. I'm going to use the center of this window line to center up my sink because I had my cabinet already set up and centered. All right, so anyway, like we have our sink in place, we have our range in place, we have our refrigerator in place, but basically we're just going to build a countertop that goes all the way over here, and then we're going to skip the range and we're going to go to the other side. All right, so I'm going to create a component that's going to represent a countertop. And I think that's the biggest thing is, there are some pre-made countertops in Revit. Usually they don't fit custom circumstances, and here you have a custom circumstance. So what we're going to do is we're just going to create a new component that's going to model or represent a countertop. So I'm going to go up to my architecture tab. I'm going to click on the little down arrow underneath component, and rather than place a component, I'm going to model one in place. All right, so I'm building a component, a brand new component, a brand new thing that's going to represent a countertop, and I'm building it in the model. All right, so I'm not leaving Revit like many of these families were built and making something out here in its own Revit family file. I'm doing it right inside the project. All right, so that's really the difference. So most of the stuff, most of these components like a refrigerator, somebody modeled this, all right, and they built it just standalone inside Revit so that you could load it into another project and it can represent a refrigerator like within your project. This one's getting built right in place. So we're going to click on that little down arrow. We'll go model in place. We're going to just, categorize it. This is just so other people, if they were ever to use your model that you built, would know like kind of what it is. All right. Is this hugely important? Not really, but at the same time, like a bad Revit model is one that contains bad information. So you always try to incorporate like good and truthful information as best you can. All right, so this is a casework component. That's like where most countertops fall under. So we'll just kind of go casework, and then we can call it countertop. All right. Do you absolutely have to follow those protocols? Not really, but it's just good practice. All right, so it's just good habit to have. Once you enter into like that family creation mode, you notice a bunch of your other tools kind of gray out and go away. That's because you can't use that stuff here. All right, so really like we're just modeling this new component, and we really only have access to tools that allow us to do that. Okay, so to build the countertop, I'm going to use an extrusion tool. This is kind of perfect for me. So I'm just going to draw a boundary or draw lines that define the shape for the countertop. I'm going to click on the extrusion tool button. Now I have my sketch tools, and I'm looking at everything from a floor plan view. All right, and all I have to do is really just kind of draw out the shape that I want to represent my countertop. So I'm just going to kind of trace along the back wall here just to start. And I'm only going places where I want my countertop to exist. Okay? We'll kind of skip over top of the range, and we'll hit up over here. So now I have like all the back edge of it. All right? I'll do the sides here next. So the sides of this thing, they're going to go, right in line with the edge of the counter. I did extend a little bit past it. We're going to clean all that stuff up in a second anyway. So it doesn't really matter exactly how long it goes. It could be short. It could be a little bit longer. It doesn't really matter. But I'm just going to put those in place. So I have some lines that represent the sides of the countertop. Once again, does not matter how long they are. And then we're going to put in one line that's going to represent like that little lip or the edge of the countertop. All right. So if you take a tape measure and you go home and you measure that out, you should end up with anywhere from like a half of an inch to maybe an inch and a half. All right. I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to put an inch, like a little one inch overhang, all right, on my countertop ledge. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to use my pick lines tool. That's going to allow me to pick any line in my project that exists currently. Well, I just want the edge of, or the front edge of the front face of the cabinets. And then I'm just going to put in an offset of 1 inch. And then if I hover my cursor in here, depending on which side I move my cursor up against that line with, it's going to keep the line 1 inch off of it. So if I move in from the inside, that's kind of like the wrong side. I don't really want it there. But if I move my cursor in from the outside edge with that little 1 inch overhang, you can kind of see where that line is going to get drawn. So it's going to get drawn in there at 1 inch off of the front face of the cabinet. So I'm going to put one line in there. I'm going to put one line over here. I'm going to put one line, not off of the cabinet door, but off the front face of the cabinet. And then I'll actually do the same thing like over here. All right. Now I got a bunch of little gaps, all right, where lines aren't connected. But what I was trying to do was I was only trying to set up geometry where I had like one single line segment, one single line segment, one single line segment, one single line segment, all the way around the outside edges. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my trim tool to bring those individual line segments, to a 90-degree angle, all right, or to a corner. So I got my little trim/extend a corner tool. And what we do with that is we just select 2 line segments that we want to form a corner. Okay, so I can kind of do that in a couple different places here where I want those lines to join up against each other. And then there was even a couple places where like I wasn't sure, I don't know if they're touching. Like if I zoom in really, really far, maybe those lines are touching. We can just kind of just double check and make sure that they are. All right, so you can use that trim tool to do so. All right, now basically you have your countertop drawn out. This is exactly where it's going to go. I'm missing one little thing though. All right, we need to put a hole where the sink's going to go. So you could be very, very, very specific, and you could sit here and you could just pick like the exact boundaries for where the sink holes are going to go. That's like one way, and then trim them all up. I think that that's time consuming. I don't think people should sit around and do that. All right, because like realistically, like that's not, how it's getting done in real life. I think you're taking a little bit too long to do it. All right, there is an outside flange like on that sink that prevents it from like dropping into the hole. So technically, like you could just draw a rectangle kind of from like this outside corner right here to the other outside corner, and that's just a really fast way for you to put a hole where the sink's going to go. All right, because that little hole is going to end up getting covered by the outside of the sink basin. All right, so if we just go ahead and finish that sketch, and then I'm just going to finish the model for right now. We'll go back to 3D. And you can take a look at what we made. All right, so here's the component that you just built. If you look at it, geometrically, it's drawn correctly from the top. All right, the only problem is it's just, not existing at the right height where it's supposed to go, and it's way too thick. All right, so all I would do is I would just kind of look at that view from the front. And then you'll notice you have like 2 blue grips on there that control like the height of that extrusion that you just made. Let's just jack it all the way up here, like really high up in the air, just to see what it looks like really quick. All right, we'll just take a look at it. All right, so that's our sketch. That's our extrusion for our countertop. If you look at it straight down from the top, it looks like it's in the right spot. Really, all we have to do is just kind of position it in the right place. Okay, so you're going to take the bottom grip and you're going to put it right on top of your cabinets. So that's going to come all the way down here. It actually will snap right on top of that line. So it'll snap right in there. So make sure you get like right on top of the countertop. And then the other one, like the top edge of it, that's actually going to go right underneath the bottom edge of the sink. All right, and it's actually, the way Revit's set up, that's going to give you an 1.5 inch thick countertop. All right, because the sink gets positioned 3 feet up off the ground, all right, which is countertop height. And the cabinets are all 2 foot 10 and a half inches tall. So that's the proper height for cabinets. All right, and if you just kind of go right there, you end up with a countertop, precisely where you need it, on top of all your cabinets, exactly in place. And then really the only thing you got to do is kind of mess around with the materials. All right, which we'll do in a different video and in a different session. All right, if you want to add a backsplash to this, feel free. All it is the same exact procedure one more time. All right, you just model in place. You could do it as a new component. Preferably, I like to keep my models kind of neat and clean. So what I would do is I would pick this model, I'd hit edit in place, I'd go up to my extrusion tool, I'd go back to my floor plan view. I would draw out where the backsplash is going to go. We'll put in like a little, maybe a half-inch backsplash. 3/4 of an inch. We'll do a 3/4 inch backsplash. I'll just go like right here, right here, right here, right here. We'll stick like a line down here just to bound this off. And I'll use my trim tool just to clean up these corners in the back. Go to 3D. Doesn't look like anything's there, but it is. We just gotta find it. Look at that, it's way down here. And then we'll just kind of raise that up. And typically backsplashes, I mean, they do come in, you can do just about anything you want. 4 inches is appropriate though. 4 or 5 inches is about appropriate. So the difference between like the bottom edge is sitting right on top of that countertop. All right, 6 minus 3, it's a 3-inch tall backsplash. Let's make it, we'll make that number a 7 right there. That'll make it a 4-inch tall backsplash. All right, which is pretty good size. All right. And that works out really nice. So you can just kind of use that. You can use that component tool, model in place, and the extrusion tool just to create a nice countertop and backsplash for your kitchen. All right.